Hi, hello, a very short video for me today because I would like to try this new Chanel eyeshadow that I picked up from their new Ombre Essentielle collection the other day. I was meant to try this eyeshadow yesterday, but then I decided that I would rather just come on camera and try it together with you. So in the interest of time, since I'm in a little bit of a hurry, but I would still like to do a video on this eyeshadow. I've already done my base makeup. I am going to do my blush bronzer highlighter together with you so we can quickly chat about the circumstances under which I decided to purchase this eyeshadow, because originally I had no interest in it. Now I'm going to take this Hermes bronzer in the shade Toturi to quickly bronze up my face. So I became intrigued by these eyeshadows mainly because I was just curious how they would compare to Dior. Several of you mentioned that they're much more subtle compared to Dior monocolor eyeshadows, and I just was intrigued. Now I will say this, both ranges have a variety of different formulas and textures, so it's quite difficult to compare one-on-one if you have a satin from one and a shadow that's meant to be a metallic from the other range, which is a little bit the case for me. Now luckily I do have one of the satins from the Dior range as well, so I feel like in terms of formula it's much more fair to compare the satin to the satin. I will however show you how much more impactful the metallics are, and I did swatch in store a number of the eyeshadows from the Chanel range because I was just curious how they feel. Now first of all, they surprised me because originally I expected them to more or less feel like very traditional eyeshadows. And while they do feel like traditional eyeshadows, they also have like a creaminess and like a silkiness to the touch that I found, quite pleasant and quite impressive. They do have that sort of like creaminess that the Dior eyeshadows have, but the Dior eyeshadows are more emollient and more creamy. They almost feel more like a putty. Keeping in with Hermes, I'm going to take also the blush that I have from the brand. This is in the shade Rose Tan. Beautiful, beautiful shade. I really like this blush. I actually like both the blush and the bronzer, but I particularly love the tone of this blush. It is just so beautiful. So because of that, and because I was just morbidly curious to compare to the formula of Dior and just how this would look on the eye, I decided to pick up one of the eyeshadows because the day that I walked into store they also had a 20% off, so I didn't buy the eyeshadow full price. Both this and the Dior monocolor are ridiculously priced as single eyeshadows. Obviously they are luxury eyeshadows, so it's not too surprising that they're so, ridiculously expensive, but with that said, I'm not willing to pay like the full price for any of them. None of them are worth the full price. None of them are even worth the 20% off, but okay, they are beautiful eyeshadows. They are, from luxury brands, so I know where to keep my expectations when it comes to pricing of these kind of products. I am going to quickly buff a little bit with my smooth buffer here because I think in my enthusiasm I forgot how pigmented this blush from Hermes actually is. Let's include a little bit more from Chanel. For highlighter, I'm going to take this oversized highlighter in the shade Peach. Gosh darn, why can I not remember the name of anything today? Precious Coral, nothing with peach, Precious Coral. But it is like an apricot peachy shade. I actually really like this highlighter. Obviously it is ginormous and I'm going to pass it down to the generations or, take it to my tomb with me. In terms of the shade that I purchased, we're going to talk about it in a little bit, but I purchased the shade Quartz Fume. And I think part of the reason that I decided to purchase the eyeshadow was not so much the formula. I think if I didn't like the eyeshadow color, I would probably not have bought it, because I swatched a number of eyeshadows in the store and a number of them were actually really beautiful colors. There is like a lime green shade, a mint green shade, some like topper type shades, and I want to say the topper type shades are not glittery. They are very smooth and duochromy. They feel like the the skin highlighter trio from Pat McGrath Labs, and one of the eyeshadows which is present in the Divine Rose 1 palette that has that whitish pinkish duochrome. It feels exactly the same in terms of duochrome and also in terms of texture. It's very smooth, there's no glitter there. So there were some more sparkly shades in the Chanel range, but I feel like overall across the board they all felt quite smooth, not intensely glittery. I'm going to set the powders on my face with the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush setting spray, and then we can proceed to a little swatch of the eyeshadow, comparison to the textures from Dior that I have tried, the finishes that I have tried, and also just talking a bit about the color, because what I found really special about Quartz Fume really is the color. I don't think that I have anything in my collection that is even remotely close to this eyeshadow. It is so special in terms of its color. So to sum up, it was really not just my morbid curiosity to try the eyeshadow formula from Chanel in that single range, but also this specific shade. Let me show it to you. So the Dior eyeshadows also come, you know, in the classic Chanel packaging. It comes with a little pouch here. I actually don't think that the Dior ones come with a little pouch. They came also in a box, but not with a pouch. In terms of the packaging, the classic, you know, very simple yet elegant Chanel design. It has a little like push button here on the eyeshadow. There were a brush and an applicator here that I've already removed. I'm so sorry. But let's talk about the color. So this is the shade Quartz Fume. And I hope that it is coming across on camera what an exceptionally special color this is. Because this sits somewhere on the crossroads between a brown, a bronze and a green, and that's really what attracted me to it so much. Not really so much the eyeshadow formula. I mean, the eyeshadow formula feels very luxurious, but that's, you know, I expected nothing less of Dior, of Chanel. But it's really this color. Look how special that is. I'm telling you, I don't really have anything in my collection that is quite like this eyeshadow. At first I thought, oh, maybe this is very similar to my Pat McGrath, whatchamacallit, again I can't remember the name, the Ultra Suede Brown pigment. Now the Ultra Suede Brown pigment is called brown, so obviously it is a bit more brown. But it also has a similarly satin formula, and I feel like a similarly like greenish tinge to it. But by comparison, this is so much more of like a bronzy brown with maybe like hints of green, whereas this is much smokier, much more like an olive green. And it is also not similar to olive greens. Let me grab an olive green to compare for you. So here we've got an olive green from one of the Star Wars Queens from Pat McGrath Labs. Obviously completely different formula, but I just wanted to show you an actual olive green shade. So this is actual olive green here. Look how like interesting that is. It is none of the shades that I described, and yet all of them at the same time. So I'm very intrigued by it. This specific shade is described to have a satin finish to it. So I didn't have my hopes up that this is going to be really sparkly, because it is obviously described not to be sparkly. Now I want to compare to a satin from Dior, and the only satin from the Dior range that I have is this one here. This is the shade Lucky Clover. By comparison, this is drier and a bit more like dusty, almost like powdery to the touch, whereas the one from Chanel is very, very creamy. I don't know whether you will be able to see the difference like this. I think in terms of the formula, the Chanel one feels similar to the metallic formula from Dior, but it performs more like a satin. Alright, let me just quickly swatch. Oh lord, where am I going to do it? Okay, here I can swatch the satin from Dior, and to me the satin from Dior really is much more like an actual like powder matte with a bit of like a sheen to it. This has, I don't know, this has a metallicness to it, but without being strongly metallic. So let's compare to what I think is more similar in terms of formula, and that is the metallic eyeshadow range from Dior. So this is the shade Beige Mizza. Beige Mizza is a different color, but I think you can also see from the pan that they look much more similar in texture than the satin from Dior. Now to the touch, the Dior eyeshadow actually feels quite similarly like smooth and creamy, but it feels more puddy compared to the shade from Chanel. Now I'm going to swatch the eyeshadow from Dior here, the shade Beige Mizza, right here for you. And you can immediately see when Dior says metallic, they really mean it. This has much more like shine and reflect to it compared to the shade from Chanel. So to me the shade, like the texture and the finish from the Chanel eyeshadow, even though it is a satin, it is just a less amped up version of the metallic eyeshadow from Dior. It is not as shiny for sure, but it is also not as matte based feeling as is the corresponding formula from Dior. I feel like that's enough nerding out on the color and the formula. Let's put this eyeshadow to the test. Now, if you can think of a similar eyeshadow that I might have that I can't think of right now, please do remind me of it, and I'm going to do my best to swatch it for you, either in a different video or post it on my community or something. But now I'm going to zoom you in and we're going to do a look, like basically a one eyeshadow look with the shade from Chanel. Obviously, because it's me and I like to also have a little bit of sparkle, it is very likely I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of something more sparkly over top. That's something that I often do with these types of eyeshadows. But obviously first I'm going to show you how the eyeshadow looks completely on its own on the lids. This is the Worker Pro. Is this the Worker Pro? Yes, it is the Worker Pro from Sonia G. And I'm going to first apply the eyeshadow like this. I might also go in a little bit with my fingers because I'm curious. And I'm just going to apply it like this on the lid. It's applying really beautifully, and it's actually, I think, not as dark as I expected. It shears out really beautifully and it has a very nice sheen on it. And I do have like the tiniest bit of fallout here because I picked up a little bit too much, but that's okay. I really like the tone of this eyeshadow. My gosh, it has a little bit of a sheen to it, nothing too intense, and it is just such an absolutely beautiful tone. Well, that's pretty much it. I applied it, I did this motion twice, and the eyeshadow is already blended out. So if you're looking for like a very like brainless, you don't have to think twice about the formula, these are going to offer you that. If you're looking for one and done eyeshadows that are foolproof and you don't have to, like if it's 5 in the morning, you're rushing to work but you want to throw on something really easy on your eyes, this is the formula for you. With that said, the one from Dior is just as easy. This is a beautiful shade. I'm going to intensify it slightly more just to see what it looks like. You know what, I'm actually going to apply a little bit also with my fingers just to see if that does anything. No, I don't think that's really doing much. I think the brush is doing a fantastic job at applying the eyeshadow. You don't actually need to use your fingers. This is a very user-friendly formula. I'm actually going to run a little bit of this eyeshadow, actually using the same brush, here on my lower lashes as well. If I were one of those people who would just be chill with having one color on their lids and no sparkle, this could be it. Like if I'm traveling and I don't want to fuss around with too much eyeshadow, but I do want to look put together and, you know, elegant, this would be the type of eyeshadow that I would definitely go for. Beautiful. I just love the tone of this eyeshadow. It's just such a special undertone. So this is how the eyeshadow looks completely on its own. I think I would be happy walking out the door with just a little bit of inner corner highlight and this eyeshadow and nothing else. Speaking of inner corner highlight, actually allow me to shove something real quick in my inner corners. I'm just going to take this highlighter here that I have from Suku, because I think it's going to be a nice like goldenish type highlighter. Very quickly inner corner highlighting, and then I'm going to actually put something sparkly over top of the Chanel shade, because you know me, I can't really help myself. So I feel like a very interesting sparkle moment over top of the Chanel eyeshadow would be this liquid eyeshadow here from Lisa Eldridge. This is in the shade Anise, and it has similarly interesting tones, like undertones, but it offers a little bit more sparkle. So I'm going to apply a little bit of this eyeshadow here on the back of my hand, and then using the Worker Pro again from Sonia G. I'm literally too lazy to even grab another brush. I'm going to apply a little bit of this shade here in sort of like the center moving portion of the lid, just to offer a little bit more dimensionality and sparkle to the shade from Chanel without taking away too much from that beautiful unique undertone that it has. I actually think these two are playing really well together. I don't know about you, but I am loving how this look is turning out. So here you have the final look. I completed it with this satin lipstick from Hermes in the shade Beige Bluey. Is that true? Am I lying? Yeah, no, it's beige blue. It is one of the limited edition lipsticks from a couple of years ago that I managed to score on Vinted recently. I think it is the perfect like beige to complete the look. I also lined my lips with the lip pencil in the shade 1 from Lisa Eldridge. Anywho, let's quickly wrap up this video. I think more so than the formula itself, I am like truly impressed and in love with the color of this eyeshadow, and I think it is just so special. I have nothing like it, and I'm just truly going to enjoy it because I love these kind of tones. I love something that sits in between a brown, a bronze and a green, like all the tones that I really like. Really enjoying this eyeshadow. I'm going to get a lot of use out of it. I have no regrets about picking it up, even if it was so expensive. That said, I don't know that I have any interest in picking up any of the other shades. There were a lot of other beautiful shades in this range. I just didn't feel like I don't have these eyeshadows from other brands in similarly beautiful formulas. So it was really the combination of the color and the texture that I felt so compelled to add to my collection. I hope that you enjoyed this short little video and demo of Quartz Fume from Chanel. I'm curious whether you picked up any of these essential eyeshadows. I think that a lot of you probably have the most popular shade in the range, which is the shade Brun Talpa. I did swatch that shade when I was in store. It is a beautiful, like very rosy toned taupe eyeshadow. It has a beautiful shine to it as well, maybe similarly, maybe a little bit less shiny compared to Beige Miza, but sort of in the same lines. And I think Beige Miza is much more brown compared to Brun Talpa. Brun Talpa really had quite a bit of like pinky undertones to it. Anyway, I said I was going to wrap this video up, and here I am rambling for another 10 minutes. Do let me know what you thought about the look. If you've picked up any of these eyeshadows, I'm curious which colors, what do you think about them? Did you get Quartz Fume, and what do you think about it? Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!